Welcome back to the channel, you guys. Welcome back. I got Project Zippy on the block. This is a Miss Geico 24, basically the same as a Blackjack 24. In the last video, we actually installed the strut. Today, we're going to be installing the rudder. Okay, so stick around. Big B, Ironclad RC. Okay, when you're picking out a rudder for an RC boat, there's a few different things you need to take in consideration. Especially if your RC boat has pre-drilled holes, you want to make sure that you're going to order a bracket with a hole pattern close to the hole pattern on your boat. Pretty simple, okay? Another thing you want to take in consideration is the rudder bracket. Okay, how far the rudder is going to be sitting off the transom of the boat. You also want to take in consideration the overall length of the rudder blade and the actual blade length. Okay, those are four pretty important aspects of your rudder that you want to take into account when you're picking out the right rudder for your boat. Okay, what I like to do whenever I'm picking out a rudder, which this rudder I actually just kind of had laying around and it'll work for the boat. I would prefer a shorter rudder. This one's 95 millimeters. I would prefer a 75 millimeter rudder for this boat. So basically just kind of threw a propeller on here just so we can get an idea of where our rudder is going to sit in relation to the strut and our prop. Okay, typically I like to actually run my blade kind of either like parallel to my prop or back from my propeller. Okay, I've noticed if you run your rudder forward of your propeller, you tend to lose a little bit of steering, and your propeller will actually steer the boat with the rudder forward. Okay, with it kind of like beside the prop or back from the prop, you get a little bit more control. Okay, and you don't get as much prop walk. So I actually have two options. This is my Sonic Wake V1 rudder bracket. It's out of commission, so I stole the bracket. Or I can use the stock bracket on the 95 millimeter rudder. I'm using a longer strut. It's kind of set back off the transom, and I think that's going to be too far forward, so I'm actually going to take this bracket right here off. So I actually have my extended bracket on. Okay, and you see how it's back from the propeller. Once we have our drive dog and our gap set and everything, the prop's going to be about right there. So it's actually basically in line with the trailing edge, the back of the propeller, aft of it. Okay, the cool thing about this bracket is if I want to, I can actually take this bracket off and put the stock bracket on, because it actually has the same mounting pattern. Okay, so that's pretty cool. I can switch brackets out if I need to. Okay, it gives you some tunability there. Basically, we're going to use the stock through hull and bellow steering setup. Okay, so I'm actually going to mount my rudder where those marks are. I'm going to try to get it as close to center as I can without having to flip my bracket over. I kind of want to mount my bracket on the inside just for looks sake. So I think that's going to work. All right, it's going to give me plenty of room to run big props if I want to without the rudder hitting the blade. So that's an important thing you need to take into consideration when you mount your rudder. You don't want your rudder to hit the blade. Okay, so make sure you mount it away from your prop. All right, if it's too far away with these brackets right here, this hinge bracket, you could take it off and actually flip it over, and it'll actually get your rudder farther from center. If you flip it over, it'll be closer to center. Okay, it gives you an option. An important part of mounting a rudder is making sure it's perfectly vertical, not canted left or right. Same with your strut. You know, boats are symmetrical. Everything needs to be vertical or dead nuts flat. You know what I'm saying? We're going to use Loctite marine adhesive on the rudder base. That way, once it cures out, the rudder's not going to tilt left to right. Okay, I think I mentioned I have the backer plate made already. Pretty simple, just a piece of fiberglass, nothing too fancy. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and get it mounted up. I'm gonna use the same nut driver I used last time. Put a little bit of adhesive on the end to keep my nuts in place and get it mounted up. So I got my rudder mounted up, made sure it was perfectly vertical. Okay, so now we need to actually hook up the steering linkage rod. Okay, that it actually came with this you know, stock with this push-pull rod with a little ball end for the strutter that was on the boat. So we're actually going to do away with that, and we're going to use a clevis style connection for the servo arm. Okay, that's actually going to bolt right up to the servo arm, just easy peasy. Okay, then it has like 4 grub screws, so you can actually finally adjust the steering rod inside the clevis. Okay, so one issue I'm running into, because I used the stock steering through hole, is the through hole isn't directly lined up with our easy connector on our rudder arm. Okay, so I'm actually gonna use a Z bend to actually make up the difference. Okay, you guys see that? That will actually go through the hole, and the Z bend will actually make up that little difference that we're having the issue with. Okay, so you basically run your new steering rod through your bellow, through the hull. Okay, and then your steering rod's gonna get pushed through your easy connector here, which, by the way, these easy connectors come in several different sizes. They have post sizes, and then they have the actual hole bore size, so you need to pay attention to that when you're ordering your easy connectors. When you install a Z bend on your steering linkage, you need to make sure the bend's not going to impede in your through hole. Okay, so I'm actually going to kind of push it out a little ways, so when the servo, you know, pushes and pulls the rudder, the bend's not going to run into your bellow. You know what I mean? So I'm going to run mine about right there. Okay, that's actually going to help out when we're in our full throw as well. So we're going to tighten it down right here. So we basically got the grub screw cinched down on our steering rod, pretty easy. Okay, make sure it's got plenty of throw, make sure it's not like bottoming out anywhere. It looks good. Alright, so now we need to actually put a battery in the boat, make sure our servo is zeroed out. So I basically have my clevis just temporary installed onto the servo arm. I got my battery in. We're going to use the steering trim to zero out our servo. Okay, that's full. So we're going to split the difference. Okay, and going to basically take a marker and mark our steering rod where we need to cut it. You need to make sure your rudder is in line with the hull. Okay, once you have your rudder lined up, basically make your mark. That's where we're going to cut our steering linkage. Okay, make sure your servo is zeroed out and your rudder is in line with the hull. So basically have my steering rod through the hull. I've got it in my rudder arm in the clevis. Okay, so for your final assembly, you need to use blue Loctite. I'm going to be disassembling all of this here shortly, so I'm not going to use blue Loctite. I'm just doing a demonstration for you guys. So we're just going to basically lock these grub screws down. Like I said, make sure you use Loctite on all grub screws final assembly. Okay, so we got it zeroed out. Make sure our rudder's in line with the keel or the sponsons in line with the hull before we tighten it up. Okay, and we should have steering. Okay, we have steering. So if you encounter any binding, okay, like full throw. If it sounds like your servo's overworking itself, you want to actually go to your dual rates, your steering dual rate, and back it off some, okay, so you don't have any binding, or you're not overworking the servo when you're in full right or left throw. Okay, very important, or you'll burn up your servo basically. Okay, so that's how you mount up a rudder, hook up a steering linkage. Okay, pretty simple, you know. Just make sure you lock tight everything. I'm not doing that step because I'm actually going to pull this servo out when we redo the inside of the boat and put a new servo mount in. Okay, so I'm not gonna lock tight. I'm not even gonna cinch this guy here down. This is just for demonstration. Okay, so hopefully this helps you guys out. It's how you mount up a rudder and hook up the linkage. Pretty simple. Okay, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.